The exact moment you no longer need to invest for retirement is not an age. It's not 65. It's not when your hair turns grey. And it's definitely not when your boss throws you a farewell party. It's a number, a silent number most people never calculate correctly. And once you reach it, money stops controlling your future. Let's start with a hard truth. Most people believe retirement is about how much money they have. In reality, retirement is about how much money they need. That difference changes everything. You don't retire when you stop working. You retire when your money can work harder than you ever could. Imagine waking up one morning and realizing something profound. Your investments alone can pay for your entire lifestyle, forever. Not just next year, not just during good markets, but through recessions, inflation, market crashes, and long lives. That realization is the exact moment you no longer need to invest for retirement. At that point, investing becomes optional. Let's break this down carefully because this is where most people get confused. Retirement isn't a finish line, it's a self-sustaining system. To understand when investing is no longer required, you must understand one concept above all else: financial independence. Financial independence is achieved when your passive income exceeds your living expenses, not matches. Exceeds. Passive income includes dividends, interest, rental income, business cash flow, and sustainable withdrawals from investments. Living expenses include everything: housing, food, healthcare, travel, taxes, and lifestyle choices. When income is greater than expenses, you are financially free. But freedom alone isn't enough. The question is it durable? This is where the famous safe withdrawal rate enters the picture. For decades, financial researchers studied how long portfolios last under real-world conditions. The result was a rule of thumb known as the 4% rule. The idea is simple. If you can live on 4% of your invested assets per year, adjusted for inflation, your money is statistically likely to last 30 years or more. So if your annual expenses are $40,000, you need roughly $1 million invested. If your expenses are $100,000, you need about $2.5 million. This isn't magic, it's math. And here's the key insight most people miss. Once your portfolio reaches a size where even conservative withdrawals fully cover your expenses, you no longer need to invest for retirement. You've already built the machine. From that moment onward, investing becomes about optimization, not survival. Now let's go deeper, because this is where the exact moment becomes crystal clear. There are 3 phases of a financial life. Phase 1 is accumulation. You trade time for money. You save aggressively. You invest consistently. Every dollar matters. Phase 2 is transition. Your investments start generating meaningful income. You're still contributing, but returns begin to rival your savings. Phase 3 is independence. Your capital fully replaces your labor. The moment Phase 3 begins, that's the moment you no longer need to invest for retirement. Not emotionally, not philosophically, mathematically. At this point, even if you never added another dollar, your future would still be funded. That's a powerful position to be in, but there's an even more precise way to define this moment. It's called the crossover point. The crossover point occurs when the expected real return of your portfolio after inflation exceeds your annual spending. For example, if your portfolio earns an average real return of 3% and your expenses represent only 2.5% of your assets, you are beyond the crossover point. Your wealth grows faster than your lifestyle consumes it. From here, investing becomes optional. You can keep working, you can stop, you can invest more, you can invest less. Retirement is already paid for. This is the exact moment fear disappears. Market drops become noise. Headlines lose power. Short-term volatility stops mattering. Because your future no longer depends on perfect outcomes. Now let's address a critical misunderstanding. Not needing to invest does not mean you stop managing money. It means the pressure is gone. You're no longer racing against time. You're no longer dependent on future contributions. You're no longer forced to chase returns. At this stage, the game shifts from growth to preservation. Your priorities change. You focus on risk management. You diversify deeply. You care about inflation protection. You care about taxes. You care about sustainability. You don't need heroic returns anymore. Average returns are more than enough. This is why wealthy retirees often appear conservative. They're not afraid. They're done. They already won. Now let's talk about the psychological side, because this moment is as much mental as it is financial. For years, investing feels urgent. You check balances. You track markets. You worry about being behind. Then one day, something changes. You run the numbers. Again, and again, and again. And no matter how you adjust assumptions, lower returns, higher inflation, longer life, the result stays the same. You're covered. That's when you realize something quietly shocking. Even if you never invest another dollar, even if you never optimize again, your retirement is secure. That's the moment. And it doesn't come with fireworks. It comes with calm. Now let's make this practical. How do you know if you've reached this point? Ask yourself 3 questions. First, if I stopped contributing today, would my portfolio still support my future expenses? Second, are my assumptions conservative, accounting for inflation, healthcare, and longevity? Third, do I have enough margin that mistakes won't ruin me? If the answer to all 3 is yes, you're there. Anything beyond this point is optional upside. This is also why comparing yourself to others becomes meaningless. Someone else's number doesn't matter. Someone else's timeline doesn't matter. Your lifestyle defines your finish line. A person who needs $50,000 a year may reach this moment with $1.25 million. Another may need $200,000 and require $5 million. Neither is better, neither is worse. They simply chose different lives. And this brings us to the final uncomfortable truth. Most people never calculate this moment because deep down they don't believe it's possible. They think retirement requires infinite growth. They think they must always be chasing more. But wealth isn't about accumulation forever. It's about sufficiency. The exact moment you no longer need to invest for retirement is the moment your money becomes self-sustaining. From that day forward, time belongs to you. You may continue investing out of curiosity, discipline, or legacy, but you no longer have to. And that is the ultimate form of freedom. Because retirement was never about stopping work. It was about removing fear from the future. And once fear is gone, everything else becomes a choice. Once you understand this moment, everything about money changes. You stop asking, how much more do I need? And start asking, how do I want to live? Because after financial independence is reached, money is no longer the engine. It becomes a tool. Most people never experience this shift. They continue investing aggressively long after they no longer need to. They chase higher returns. They take unnecessary risks. Not because they must, but because they don't realize they're already safe. This is where clarity matters more than wealth. The exact moment you no longer need to invest for retirement is also the moment you gain leverage over your own life. Your employer loses power over you. Deadlines lose their urgency. Stress loses its grip. You are no longer working to survive. You are working because you choose to. And choice is the true currency of wealth. Now let's address something critical. Inflation. Many people fear that inflation means you must invest forever. This is only partially true. Inflation matters before you reach independence. Afterward, it's already accounted for. If your portfolio is diversified across productive assets, stocks, real estate, businesses, inflation is not your enemy. Inflation hurts cash. It does not destroy ownership. When you own assets that produce value, prices rise with inflation. That's why the calculation uses real returns, not nominal ones. Once your spending is a smaller percentage of your assets than the real return rate, inflation loses its power. Your purchasing power stabilizes, and that stability is what defines the finish line. Now let's talk about longevity, because people are living longer than ever. What if you live to 95? What if healthcare costs rise faster than expected? This is where margin of safety comes in. The moment you no longer need to invest is not when things barely work. It's when they still work under stress. Lower returns, higher costs, longer life. If the plan survives all three, it's not fragile, it's resilient, and resilience is the goal. This is why some people choose a 3.5% withdrawal rate instead of 4%. Not because they must, but because they can. They already crossed the line. They're not racing anymore. They're protecting peace. And peace is expensive, but worth every dollar. Now let's look at the opposite mistake. Some people reach financial independence and don't recognize it. They keep delaying life. One more year. One more promotion. One more market cycle. But time is the only asset that never compounds. You can always earn more money. You can never earn more years. The tragedy is not running out of money. The tragedy is running out of life while waiting to feel ready. The moment you no longer need to invest is also the moment you are allowed to slow down. Not quit, slow down, work less, say no more often. Choose projects that matter. This is why many financially independent people don't fully retire. They shift from obligation to intention, from income to impact. Now let's talk about legacy, because this is where investing becomes optional but meaningful. Once your retirement is guaranteed, investing can serve a new purpose, not security, contribution. You may invest to support causes, to help family, to build something that outlives you. But notice the difference. The fear is gone. The urgency is gone. You're no longer investing for yourself. You're investing from abundance. That's a completely different mindset, and it only becomes possible once the exact moment is reached. So let's define that moment one final time, clearly and precisely. You no longer need to invest for retirement when your invested assets, using conservative assumptions, can sustainably fund your entire lifestyle for the rest of your life without requiring additional contributions. That's it. No hype, no guesswork, no hope, just math and discipline. Anything beyond this point is optional. More comfort, more luxury, more generosity, but not necessity. And that distinction changes how you see money forever. Because wealth was never about endless growth. It was about enough safety, enough freedom, enough time. Most people never stop investing because they never define enough. But the moment you do, the finish line appears. Quietly. And once you cross it, you realize something surprising. You were never chasing money. You were chasing control. And now, you have it. That is the exact moment you no longer need to invest for retirement.